Hello everybody and welcome back to another Pokémon Emerald video. Today I will be starting a playthrough with another Pokémon trio. Specifically this time it's going to be the 3 Regis from Generation 3. The first one on the line is going to be Regirock as it has the lowest Pokédex number. I don't know about you, but personally I am quite fond of those guys. I still remember when I was first playing Sapphire and using the Braille alphabet translation on the back of the pamphlet that you get with the game to translate and unlock their chambers. That was quite fun, and I'm a bit sad that there has not been anything like that in the newer games. Anyway, even though it is a legendary, it still has to follow the same rules, so I can only use my starter in combat, I can't use any items from my bag in battle, I can't raise my evasion, and I can't use cheats or glitches with an asterisk. And that asterisk is there because Regirock and the other two Regis only start with explosion at level 5. That is very bad, as with explosion you do not get any XP since you die in the process. This makes it literally impossible to complete the game with them, and I had to cheat in a few rare candies to gain a couple of levels until it learned the first usable move. I will be doing the same thing with Regi-Ice and Registeel since their situation is exactly the same. Thanks to the great stats and now decent moveset, the first parts of the game are going to be quite easy. Most of the Pokémons here also only use normal moves which are resisted, so this is going to be not a problem at all. Where things got a bit more sketchy is the first gym leader, because Roxanne uses rock types, and unlike what some people believe, rock does not resist rock. Instead, it's ground that resists it. And unfortunately, her first two Geodudes are part ground, so my rock throw is not going to do much damage. To fix that problem, I leveled a bit more until level 17, where the Regis learn Curse. It's not the best setup move, but it will have to do. By using that a bunch, I can increase my attack by a lot and also my defense, but that's less important. As you can see, even with the maxed out attack, my rock throw is not doing all that much damage to them. I mean, it is almost one-shotting them, but you would expect a full-on one-shot. Things are sort of simpler with her ace, since Nosepass is not ground, but given his increased HP and other stats, he also lived a bit. Once we have obtained the first badge, we can resume our story, and next we have to do some stuff around town. Specifically, we have to defeat this Team Aqua Grunt, who kidnapped the Pico. Unfortunately for him, he is still using the same old Puchiena and he gets destroyed. Next, before we can move on to bigger things, we have to defeat our rival May in the optional fight just before leaving town. Her team did improve quite a bit compared to our first encounter, especially because her starter now knows Absorb, which is super effective, but since it's a low power move, it still deals little damage to me. Once we took care of her team, we should do Brawly, but since I was scared of the bad type matchup, I skipped him and went straight to Slateport. Here we have to deliver some parts to a captain, but before we can do so, we are interrupted by a couple of Team Aqua Grunts. Their teams are not too threatening, and with a couple of well-placed rock throws, I can defeat all of their Pokémons with ease. Unfortunately, that does not save us from the Archie rant, and after having to listen to him for a while, we can resume our journey. Our next major encounter is going to be again against May. This time her team is actually sort of a challenge. Wingull does good damage with Water Gun, especially since I missed, and Grovyle is way faster than us, and with a crit he also hurts a lot. Thankfully I get a crit back, defeating the Gecko Pokémon in one hit. That could have been scary otherwise. After passing that test, we have to take on the next gym. This one is also kind of dangerous. Unfortunately, since we are not ground type, we cannot ignore their electric moves, and so I cannot spend too much time setting up. Fortunately, at level 25, the Regis learn Superpower, which is a fighting type move, which is super effective against Magneton, and thanks to my decent attack, that's a one-shot on that annoying Pokémon. It also has the drawback of lowering your attack and defense, but we do not have to worry about that just yet. Now that we have the Dynamo Badge too, we can explore much more of the region thanks to Rock Smash, and eventually we stumble upon the two teams in the Meteorfall Caves. Here we are informed about Max's plan, and so we immediately climb the local volcano to put an end to his scheme. You would think that he will be annoying because of my Tiena and Intimidate, but I sort of forgot about Clear Body. For whatever reason, I was convinced that the Regis all had Pressure as an ability, but instead they all have Clear Body, which is a much better ability as it negates all forms of stat lowerings. At least the ones done by the enemy Pokémons. Since our attack was left untouched, Max's team did not stand a chance against us, and soon we defeated him. I can sort of do the same against our next gym, since Flannery uses fire types, which are weak to rock moves. At this point, I also learned Ancient Power, which is going to be my main rock move for the rest of the game. It's not crazy powerful, only 5 PPs and 60 base power, but it has a 10% chance to increase all of your stats by one stage, which is extremely powerful, especially if you can get multiple boosts in a single fight. After easily taking care of Flannery and getting her badge, we have to backtrack and go to Brawly, because we need all 4 of the first badges before we can take on our dead Norman. As you might expect, at this point his Pokémons are all a one-shot because of my extra levels, and even though my speed is not very good, I am still moving faster than them thanks to the previously mentioned levels. Now that we finally have this badge too, we can backtrack just a couple steps more to face our dead Norman. His team is a bit more scary than what we faced so far, but not too much so. The most dangerous things are Spinda with his confusions, but he goes down in one hit, and Slacking because of the counters, but since I know that it is a problem, I played around that. Instead of attacking, I set it up with Curse on the turns where Slacking could move, and just like that, the Yeti went down without a fight. The remaining 2 Pokémons are not really a problem, as they only have normal moves to hit me with, and therefore they'd go down kinda easily. By defeating Norman, we can get his badge, but most importantly, we can now use Surf out of combat. While that is not super important, since Regirock of course cannot learn that, we can use it to explore pretty much the rest of the region, starting off with the Weather Institute, where we find Shelly, but of course she is not really a threat, as her two Pokémons are very weak, and without the Intimidate, Mightyena is really nothing too great. Not long after that encounter, we have another match against our rival. This time, though, I am very much not worried. I have a whole bunch of moves that I can use to take care of her team, and thanks to a sizable level difference, their damage output is going to be very minimal too. Somehow I even ended up outspeeding Grovyle. That's kinda weird. Moving on, we have to take care about the next gym. Winona specializes in flying types, which is great for us for once, since our stab rock moves are going to destroy her team. At least most of it, since Pelipper is always annoying with his protects, but once that move fails, I can get through his fat beak with a single ancient power. Of course, the other annoying part in this fight is going to be Skarmory, since his steel type makes it neutral to my attacks, but after a couple of hits he goes down too. With that, Winona is defeated, and we can now move on to the next town over, where we have to fight our rival once again. This time it's going to be an optional fight, and the last one in the video. May is guarding the substitute TM, and I was a bit conflicted about whether to use it or not in this run, because I can already ignore the Intimidate with a clear body. Ultimately, as you'll see, I decided to use it for the league, since it can also be good to dodge other RNG moves and maybe protect me from a couple of big hits. After acquiring the Magma emblem, we have to infiltrate the Team Magma base, where we reach Maxi a bit too late, as he just woke up Groudon, but the legendary runs away, and frustrated, he attacks us. Much like our previous encounter with him, this is not going to be crazy difficult, but there are a couple extra challenges. First off, Camerupt has Earthquake, and after a couple of superpower defense drops, that might end up hurting quite a bit. Not enough to defeat me, but as you can see, it chunks away a large portion of my HP. Things are not over though, as Crobat could also prove very annoying if he confused me, but instead he prefers to deal a bit more damage with his flying moves. Now that we have taken care of the Team Magma, we have to do the same in the Team Aqua's hideout. Here we are only faced by one of their admirals, and going off what Shelly was, this guy is not very powerful either. In a couple of hits he is defeated too, and now I have a bit of time to level up and gather more moves, because the fight against Tate and Liza might prove kinda difficult. My special defense is not too high, so if they start focusing on me with Psychics and lower it even further, this could get very ugly. This also means that I do not have too much time to set up with Curse, and the speed drop from that move is starting to feel not really that worth it. Once I was left with only the Meteor Pokémons, my hopes were kinda high, since Ancient Power is neutral and stab for good amount of damage, but then Solrock pulls out a Solar Beam, and I got through this only because of a lucky crit at the end. That's a win nonetheless, and I'll take their badge just before moving on to the second double fight on the island. This time around, I have to deal with the Team Magma's leadership, aided by the help of Steven Stone. The fight is not terribly interesting. Their Pokémons are the usual ones that we are all well aware of, and their strategies are not that crazy either. I can take my time with this one, since their damage output is not going to be that great, while mine is going to be fine, since I am once again ignoring the intimidates thanks to my ability. Confusions from Crobat or other Pokémons are also not going to be that effective this time around, since my defense is sky high. So if I do end up hitting myself, it will not be for a whole lot of damage. After a bunch of turns fighting their Pokémons, we can finally defeat the last one of them, and with that we are done once and for all for this evil team. After receiving the Dive HM from Steven, we have to reach the seafloor cave, where we find Archie, who is about to do the same with the Kyogre. Once again, his team is sort of a copy-paste from the Team Magma guys, so there is not a whole lot to say about this one. It could have been scarier since he has a Sharpedo, but since I do not think it has any water move, this shark guy is not a problem either. After defeating all of his Pokémons, the red orb in his pocket activates on its own and wakes up the water legendary. Since the weather in the region has now turned into a mess, we have to go ask Rayquaza for help. And while I do that, I would ask you guys and girls to subscribe, like, share the video, leave a comment, and all of that stuff, as it helps out a big deal. After saving the world, we can resume our badge collection, and last we have to defeat Juan. His team focuses on water types, and I was a bit scared about that. Not too much so, as my level is still very high compared to his, so my damage output should be good enough to take care of his Pokémons. In the middle of the fight, I also got an Ancient Power boost, which is extremely useful, as that allows me to take down Kingdra in 2 hits, no questions asked. That is huge, as it lowers the risk of any double team strategies happening. I did take a couple of hits here and there, and my HP got somewhat low, but not so much so, and this sort of gives me hope for the champion fight. Not long after entering in the Victory Road, we are challenged by Wally and his team of ramshackled Pokémons. They are not too worrisome, most of them are going to be defeated in a single attack, even Magneton, since I am still carrying around superpower. The drawbacks from that move did not really play any huge role in the run, but I think that's going to be a liability for the league, and that's why I will get rid of the move. After clearing the rest of the cave and gathering a couple of items and other setup stuff, I am finally ready to enter the league. Here our first match is going to be against Sidney, and unfortunately I lost once because of double teams and leech seeds and stuff like that. The second attempt goes a bit better, and I'm a bit surprised to see my Tiena chose to go for Crunch over and over again. Usually this guy likes to use Sand Attack or other stuff, but I guess my huge defense made him reconsider. Unfortunately, I got leech seeded by Cacturn again, and that's really not great, as I am being leeched for HP every turn. Fortunately, I can put Shift 3 under the ground before the double team strategies pay off again, and with a couple more attacks, Sidney is defeated, and we can move on to Phoebe. One drawback of my current moveset is that the only thing I have to hit ghost types is Ancient Power, and given the fact that it only has 8 PPs even after PP max, this is going to be a problem. Fortunately, Leppa berries exist, and by equipping one of them, I effectively have 16 PPs, which is much more reasonable. After setting up a substitute to ignore curse and a few curses to increase my stats, I can start the sweep with Ancient Power. Here Banette sort of trolls me as it makes me lose all of my PPs with the grudge, but fortunately the Leppa Berry comes in very clutch, allowing me to recover the lost PPs and keep going with the fight. The rest of the team does not stand much of a chance against my boosted legendary, and soon we are done with her too. Next we have to take on Glacia, and she could be a problem, mostly because her team has a lot of water types too. I was sort of hoping to see Wall Rain later, and maybe even after an Ancient Power boost. Instead, she sent it out second, and a single Surf chopped away half of my HP, which is not great, but since I can defeat the Walrus the next turn, the run is saved. The rest of the team is not really that big of a deal, as they are all weak to rock, and I even got a somewhat useless boost at the end. Lastly, for the Elite Four, we have to defeat Drake and his dragon Pokémons. I was also worried about this one, since they have a few super effective moves and a couple special attacks that might do a lot of damage to me. I used the sub-course strategy, but only used course once, since I was hoping I would still be able to outspeed him, but that was not really the case. All of his Pokémons are now faster than me, and that's a big problem, as even though I can defeat them with mostly one hit, they will still be able to hit me before I can finish them off. That means that they can chip away at my HP every turn, and that starts to add up after a while. Fortunately, Altaria did not attack me, otherwise I would not have been able to survive the hit from Salamence, and thanks to that I can finish off the team of dragons and move on to the champion. Not going to lie, the fight against Wallace was quite hard. That's not really a big surprise, since he has the type advantage. For this one, I tried a bit of a weird strategy. As you might have seen, I have the white herb equipped. That's because I wanted to use Curse, but not lose speed. Hopefully, that plus a couple of Ancient Power boosts will be enough to get me through this fight. I get an Omni boost very early on against Wailord, and that's great, but unfortunately I find out the hard way that it is not quite enough. In one of the lost runs, I just barely missed the KO on my Milotic, and then it finished me off with a Surf. In this attempt, instead, I got very lucky and got a second Omni boost against the Tentacruel. That is great, because it now means that I have effectively won this fight, as I know I can one-shot the remaining Pokémons, and I'm also faster than them. I'm not super proud of the luck needed for this fight to work out, but the other option would have been to level up a bunch, and that was also not very interesting. Overall, this run was kinda slow but solid, just like the rock. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe, ring the bell and all of that stuff. Also leave a comment with any feedback, video ideas, improvements or anything else you want to talk about. I'll be sure to answer all of them. See you next week. Bye!